with Japan. Let's step in.
Alright, so now we will have a panel discussion with two presenters, Mr. Tahir Mahmood and Mr. Ashim Ahmed. Thank you for your great presentation. It's very valuable and it's important. And in addition to our presenter, I also have Mr. 조정현 대표님 from ZetaCube. So I'd like to ask you to introduce yourself to the audience. So your company.
This is Alex Cho. This is an English name. I'm a CEO of the ZetaCube. We are manufacturer for the computers and the servers and the embedded software provided with some DePIN network. DePIN is a decentralized physical infrastructure networks. So simple ideas for the physical resource combined by the blockchain. So now in this time we are cooperate with the Kernel Labs for the some very new technology embedded some new protocol for the management DePIN and helping DePIN and finally our target is make the some shared economic frameworks and the platform to the entire world by the DePIN networks.
Okay, so before this panel discussion, because I'm a little bit ignorant on this domain, so I have questions to Dr. Mahmood on like more concrete examples of how your service in your company make our life better. So could you do that?
Sure. I guess it really is about what service we deliver to the end consumer. So the whole idea is we want to make AI the black box not be a black box. We want it to be like a greenhouse with windows, so you can look inside and see what is going on. So what will that do? One, it means you should have more confidence with what you are working with. We were talking just a little bit earlier about when you use ChatGPT, how do you know that an American company isn't biased towards turning people in Korea to be more pro-USA, right? You don't know. Do any of you know how it was trained? Do you know what a bias is? You know nothing. So think of that way as one of those social goods that we are trying to bring about, the ability for you to know what is happening and whether you should use ChatGPT or not.
So as a customer, we've seen such a service yet. So I had some difficulties in understanding what it will be looking like. Right? So I'm using ChatGPT, then there will be extra window showing that some fingerprint is created or like low file you open it if you have any issues like that. So it'll be great if you can visualize the service as an end user.
Okay, yeah. So think of it as, again, those of you who have been using sort of the recent versions of ChatGPT, you'll notice that when you prompt, you get a chain of thought. It tells you how it's thinking, right? The reasoning that's going on. Now, all of that reasoning that's going on is being put in a log file. It's putting it away and saying, I did this because, and then I thought about this, and I did this. But at the end of the day, even though it's been stored, you will never know that you can, whether it's been stored, can you get access to it later? Do you know if it's sending you different information? So from and I guess the answer is what does the UI, UX, the user experience, the user interface look like? So number one, I think Asim and I have this view that in the future, when today you go to a web browser and you go to a website and you see the lock, the SSL lock, the locker, which says that you're going to do something in e-commerce where your credit card, your information, when it's transmitted from the web browser to the payment side, is secure. You feel more confident that this technology is approved by everybody in the world, and you look for the little lock. So we're hoping that what will end up happening is when you're using these sort of foundational models, these more general models, that there'll be a little logo, whether it says kernel or whether it says trustworthy AI, the words, but it will contain some visual reference.
So I think as people have more experience on using this AI service like ChatGPT, then they want to do more with that, right? And I think that is a great way to make it more interactive. I think. So as an end user, people want to have agency in not just adapting what this ChatGPT says, but they might want to ask a question, further question, and the way they create this information, I think in that sense, your service will be.
Yeah. So I think what's lovely is that this idea of agency is literally part of the EU AI Act, right? It's giving agency you the right to know what you're doing, how you're doing it, and everything else. So yeah, so our technology is we're not just building something that gives you sort of like compliance due to some law, some regulation, because that's just record keeping. The idea is to allow you to actually know what you're doing, right? So for instance, give an example. Today when you interact with an AI agent, so not ChatGPT per se, let's say all the systems that have been built around the world, you will only know you interacted with one agent, but underneath it may speak to 1 million agents, right? You're not going to know anything. You just want users to think it works. So just imagine that traceability of what's going on could be hashed, could be stored with every prompt. And that goes somewhere which is stored publicly in an immutable ledger. So you, in the future, could go, you know what, maybe I don't have access to all of what happened, but I know the actual cryptographic proof of what happened is stored publicly, and I can publicly access that, at least that hash, on-chain. So in the future, you could decide, you know what, I would like to know everything. And this is where GDPR comes in. GDPR is you have the right to access your information and know what is kept by you about you. And again, these systems, what we're hoping to build is to give you the equivalent of taking control.
So recently we are building some decentralized data center. So every AI and every that kind of proof of system is more and more needed. Latency is very important. So in this time, network is growing up very fast. But the problem is every network is just only focused on the big city and modern cities and rich countries. So every that kind of infrastructure is just handled by some very few countries and areas. So our idea and our goal and vision is we build a totally decentralized, logical and geographical, decentralized small data centers installation here and there. Then maybe we can build some perfectly supporting the latency and supporting the trust and supporting the many kinds of stability together. That's all.
So I think not only the software program itself, but the physical location is
Our solutions?
yes.
So I was thinking too much about our solution, and I already misunderstood, but I already explained it. So this is a small box, but it is combined with every materials and components into the whole system, integrate one box for the same as the big data centers, cooling system, the power supply, every sensors and the network equipment and the server, optimized servers. So just 10 square meters can installation anywhere. Anywhere means even in Africa and this East Europe, and so we just deliver that box to the somewhere and connect the electricity 15 kilowatt overs and internet infras. Just one gig is enough. Then it is become a data center within 1 day. So we call that one is a nano deep centers.
Can I just add something? So I think one way to look at this, well, one of the reasons why we're enjoying working with ZetaCube is I believe Alan and ZetaCube are democratizing AI, right? So instead of only the few holding on to AI, what is happening is that if you're creating these nano data centers, which remember, they can be tokenized, so it doesn't, so let's assume it's $100,000 to buy a nano data center. By the time you fit in everything, it could be $300,000. But through tokenomics and tokenization, real world assets, all these things of which Asim knows a lot about, you're able to take that and build that anywhere on the planet, right? Now, what that means is you're giving access to people. And giving access to people that they can actually run and build their own AI models, but also control those AI models. So I think the actual physical side is great, but I think what ZetaCube is bringing is a much greater go.
Yeah, I think just rounding it off from what both of you said, and the initial question which you asked here as well about how would the retail or the consumer seek kernel and trustworthy AI technology. Effectively, my vision is in about 5 years from now, AI as a default will be held accountable, and the regulation is a catalyst. But the real thing is, regulation is not coming in for a reason, for no reason. It's coming in because there is a fundamental problem with AI. There's a trust crisis, and we're resolving that. And you know what we're doing and what ZetaCube doing is basically we're saying every enterprise wants to use AI, but they know that because of its black box nature and the trust crisis, it's very difficult to work with this beast. We can't understand what's happening. So my view is, if you're building an AI model for healthcare, which is helping you recommend surgeries for patients, if a patient sues you, you will need to show the provenance tracking. You will need to know how the decision was made, what database, what date. Like, you need to show the hash, you need to show the log. And the reality of it is, and Taya covered this in his presentation, is if you prompt that model now, or you prompted a year ago, the result, the biases, the weights, everything has changed. So you need a snapshot at the point of a decision, and that needs to be held in court. It's not enough to say, when I trained this 2 years ago, this is how I did it, and and show that in court. If 2 years later the model made a certain decision and you're being sued in court because you relied upon a model, or an insurance policy pricing, or other financial use cases, you're trading using AI models, right? Or if you think about defense and military, these missiles, they're using AI technology to move around. There's a lot of use of AI. Accountability can't be just for the point when you were doing your model preparation. It's out there in the wild for however many years you're using it. It's the live snapshot that you relied upon. So where I see us is basically where we're building is going to be that middleware, like the lock that Tanya mentioned. It's that invisible layer that only when you look for it, you will find it, otherwise it's just invisible. We want to be working with every business so that they can hold their AI accountable, make it governable, and make it transparent. And when you think about ZetaCube with the enterprise use case of their nano data centers, collectively we are enabling enterprises to democratize their compute and take ownership, get transparency on the metrics around how they are charged for compute, but also enabling trustworthy AI in that same box. So these nano data centers are coming with a layer of trustworthy AI, so that when you are using these data centers to do your enterprise use cases of AI, you're developing your internal models, you're getting trustworthy AI, that accountability straight out of the box. So the consumer doesn't necessarily need to see it, but it's built into your processes as a business.
All right. So thank you for sharing your visions of this trustworthy. I think I can hear some of your personal story, because I was very interested in your stories. Like here we start, Ashim Ahmed, you start from a consultant, right? Now you are a fund raiser, and also you cross the fence, and you are a co-founders of KRNL, right? And also Mr. Tahid Mahmood, you also start your careers as a programmers, right? You programmed, and now you are in this scene. So I think there's some transition from this to there. So what do you say about? So what is the?
Yeah, I guess it's a lesson for students as well. Like my career hasn't been like getting onto one path and then growing. People seem to think that you need to know what you want to do in your life when you're at university, and that's not the case. And it's also the case that what you want to do will change over time. You can get bored of one, it doesn't mean it wasn't the right thing for you. You might want to do something else. And once you actually go out there and learn from other people and what other people are doing and how big the world is, you will often discover opportunities which you were not exposed to or never heard of while you were studying. So, one of the earlier career advice I got was that it's never too late to change your career. And I've always felt that when I saw something I want, I can make it happen. You have to obviously take risk. And I think the most amazing thing about the current climate is with whether it's AI or the access to the internet, but particularly with AI. With the internet, you have infinite knowledge at everybody's disposal. So there is no excuse for not being an expert if you believe in something and are interested. It's really down to you and your own willpower and your ability to learn. But then with AI, you could become a one-man business in that area where you want to excel. So the importance of learning how to use technology, leverage it towards your objective is very important. But learning yourself so that you can use this beast that you call AI and use it towards your betterment. The access to knowledge is there, and the world is fully accessible globally. So you're playing now, for better or worse, you're competing at the world level now, not at the local level. So the dynamics are very interesting. And for me, I see that as, yes, there's threats, but I just see that as an amazing opportunity for me as an individual. And what we're doing here, and what I've always done, is try and capitalize on that. But that opportunity is available to everybody. But less than 1% sees the world in that way. So it's just a case of perspective.
Okay. It's interesting. So I'm going to try to give you a non-technical answer, no technical part of this whatsoever. I remember growing up, my father, he was a carpenter. He worked with wood. He would make a chair, he would make a table, he would make a wardrobe. And I think this idea of taking a raw material like a tree and transforming it into something that, this is made of wood, really, I don't know, I fell in love with the idea of taking something and creating something. And, seeing that human innovation, that human, will to want to grow or do something. So the physical part of, my father showed me how to use a hammer, how you do a nail, chisel, how do you do that, how do you saw. So all of those tools allowed me, I think, to build a sense of, I call it worth, that if I build something, it will make me happy and I can contribute, and maybe it will make me money, because I can sell the table or the chair. So that, I think, is what's started in my life. So when I got a computer, and I realized that with a computer, it's the same like a hammer or a saw. With that, I could create something, and I used the other word, give birth to something. I think that people ask me, what was it like to write my first program, my first application, where I typed it in, I said execute, and it did something. And I say, if I could be a woman, maybe I gave birth to a child, my first child. And every time I build something, I feel that way. It's the dopamine, it's that what drives me. So those being instilled in me, I think, as feelings, emotional aspects of what drives me. I get asked by many people, like, what is it like that you worked with Bill Gates? What is it like that you worked with Steve Jobs? It's interesting. Tim Berners-Lee, before he became Sir Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of the internet, I communicated with him quite a lot in 1994 as he was bringing about HTML, because I was telling him my vision of it, Web3 or Web at that time, and what it would be about and where he should think about areas. So I've been very, very lucky that I've had a chance to work or talk with those people that have helped drive everything that we do for 4 decades, right? But the question everybody asks me is, what is it that you would like to be remembered for? And I always say to them, not for money, because nobody will remember how much money Bill Gates was worth in 10 years or 20 years. Nobody will remember how much Elon Musk was worth. Nobody will remember that Nvidia became worth 4 trillion market cap. Nobody will remember. But you know what? And I would love to ask to see that, how many hands go up. How many people know who is Leonardo da Vinci? Right? I would hope everybody in the room, the greatest inventor of all time. How many people know Isaac Newton? Yeah, Albert Einstein. Right? Exactly. Now those, how many hundreds of years ago did those people exist? Right? We still remember them. Right? So that is what drives me personally. So if you really want to know, money is easy, comes and goes. You don't take it to the grave. But if we're going to work as a society to improve ourselves, then the opportunity you have given, you guys given to us today, that is a chance for me to share, because I know if I'm very lucky, 25 years from now, I will be dead. If AI does well, maybe it will solve more problems and I'll live for 50 years.
Thank you for such a motivating comment. I also ask you, Jusong, because the Bridges School of Metaverse, it's an interdisciplinary program, so we have these engineering majors, business major, and also entertainment major. So as a CEO, you see a lot of young workers, right, who want a job in this field. Do you need advice for that?
Okay.
한국말로 하시면 또 좋겠죠. Incoming, please.
제가 그 타일 마모드를 만난 게 이제 다낭에서 만났습니다. 베트남 다낭에서. 그래서 서로 만나서 바로 서로 백그라운드 얘기하고, 본인은 40여 년 이상 된 엔지니어고 저는 30여 년 된 엔지니어라고 서로 얘기했고, 처음에 이제 저도 중학교 때 컴퓨터 처음 사서 83년도가 그때 시작했고, 이분은 뭐 79년도부터. 그리고 저도 뭐 한국에서는 뭐 대부분의 유명한 분들하고 같이 많이 일해봤고, 또 흥망성쇠 많이 겪어봤고, 또 이분도 또 굉장히 많은 분들을 겪으셨더라고요. 그래서 두 사람이 굉장히 교집합이 많아서 급속도로 이제 프로젝트에 대한 일단 신뢰를 서로 하게 되고, 쉽게 설명하면 커널랩스 프로젝트를 아무리 쉽게 설명해도 잘 못 알아듣습니다, 일반 사람들은. 그리고 또 반대로 저희 프로젝트도 좀 쉬워 보이긴 해도 또 그냥 얘기하면 좀 어려운데, 프로젝트가 가진 굉장한 어드밴티지 알아주셔가지고 급속도로 같이 프로젝트를 하게 됐고, 지금은 이제 저희 엔지니어하고 커널랩스 엔지니어가 이제 코업해서 새로운 프로토콜을 만들고 있거든요. 근데 이 얘기를 하는 이유는 뭐냐면, 조금 아까 얘기하신 대로 그 마음, 그러니까 뭔가 만들고 나눈다는 마음을 똑같이 갖고 있었던 것 같고, 제가 사실 굉장히 크게 성공도 해봤고, 몇 번을 해봤습니다. IPO 2번이나 해봤고, 또 상장 페이지도 2번을 당해봐서 엄청 쓴 맛을 많이 봤는데, 그래서 제가 그 전에 이제 정부 때도 이렇게 창업 관련된 어떤 벤처 강의를 하라고 이렇게 초청을 해주시면 무조건 달려갑니다. 가가지고 청년들 앞에서 뭘 얘기하냐면, 제 앞에 이제 다른 강사가 먼저 얘기합니다. 난 이렇게 해서 성공했다. 난 이런 것들을 만들어 성공했고, 나 성공했다는 얘기를 많이 합니다. 그 다음에 제가 나가가지고는 난 이래서 망했다. 난 저래서 망했다. 난 이래서 조폭 돈을 써가지고 엄청나게 고생해서 8개월 집에 못 들어가고 때려맞고 도망 다니고 해봤다. 그걸 또 어떻게 해결했다. 그 다음에 또 뭐 여러 가지 이제 스토리를 얘기하면서, 저는 확신을 갖고 있는 게 그런 어떤 어려운 얘기들이 더 도움이 된다고 생각을 합니다. 내가 잘했고 내가 잘났고 이런 것들은 참 서로 상황이 달라서 따라가기도 힘들고, 근데 이제 그런 어떤 어려운 부분들은 그렇게 하면 또 그게 망하거든요. 그래서 가능하면 좀 나누고 싶은 마음이 많았는데 이제 그런 마음들이 조금 많이 통했고 그런 신뢰 속에서 좀 급속도로 프로젝트를 진행해 사실 그렇게 오랜 시간이 되진 않았고 한 3개월 이상 됐는데 오늘 여기까지 이제 오셨고 또 우리 원장님 또 계셔서 꼭 한번 이렇게 이런 기회를 우리만 얻지 말고 꼭 이렇게 학생들이나 아니면 다른 청중들한테 이런 좋은 분들의 얘기를 좀 나누고 싶다라는 말씀을 드려서 앞으로도 기회가 있는 대로 하고 싶은 마음이 있습니다.
I'm asking him to share his idea in Korean. 한국말로 했으니까 이렇게 아주 충실하게 나누셨습니다. 혹시 플로어에 질문 있으시면 질문 좀 받으면 좋겠는데 시간이 좀 저희가 예정된 시간보다 많이 쓰긴 했지만 질문 있으신가요? 한국말로 질문하시면 제가 못하지만 최대한
Okay, let's get back to the first question. Let's get back to the first question.
Yes.
Professor Sa asked this one. How kernel operating system works? It's for B2C or B2B? That's what I mean. That's for the end users or that's for the business for users. You know, if our students, starting to be an entrepreneur, they can use your solution easily and quickly, or any kind of technical hurdle, or whatever. A little more explanation.
So to begin with, what we've done is when we launch the technology as a tool, SDK, will be available to all builders, all developers. So you can take our technology and build whatever you like. Okay, so number one, but as our technology, we're making it also available as a software as a service, as a platform to make it easier for enterprises to use our technology, because not everybody is a developer, not everybody is a builder. So if our go-to-market was purely builders, that we're limited. But if we are building a tool that makes that easier, then the enterprise user can easily set it up for processes that they want to use. One of the initiatives we've taken is Asim and I have a meeting in 2 or 3 weeks now or less with let's just say someone very senior at AWS with the idea that they can put our technology into AWS and people who use AWS can literally just click a button and do everything within AWS. So it all comes down ultimately to we want to make it as frictionless, as easy as possible. But at the same time, as a developer, as a hardcore developer, I also don't want to hide the engine. Just like people who are enthusiasts of cars, you can look at cars and say, that's nice. You can drive a car and say, I drive it. But there are some of us who want to open it and look inside. So hopefully that's, we will provide any of those, but each one of them allows us as a business, and, Asim can explain in more detail. Maybe I can hand over to Asim, why we have to have a certain type of go-to-market.
Yeah, I think, from what I said, the key is for something that's a global opportunity where every single AI model for every single enterprise will be wanting to hold their AI accountable. We're not selling you an enhancement in your AI. What we're doing is we're solving a painful problem, right? So, it's one of those things where, you're either providing some kind of, dopamine to somebody, or you're taking away their pain. Our product is focused on taking away pain. You build something, you want to innovate with AI as a business, but you're restricted because you can't either meet regulation or your customers don't trust you because they can't trust what came out of your black box, and you can't give them enough trust. So what we're doing is we're saying just pay this, and if like what I said, if your models are running in AWS and AWS has a checkbox which says enable trustworthy AI, it just costs a little bit more, but everything will be fingerprinted. Then we just fit within that background process and we produce the logging that's required. So you should think of us as a back-end, you could say, service for when you're building your model. it's not something where I guess you guys on your phones would ever download a kernel application and be like, hey, because what's that going to do for you? We're solving a pain for a company whose application you probably want to use. So you'll be using somebody else's application and it'll be powered by AI. And that AI will be running and being fingerprinted by us. So we won't face your LLM direct. You won't see us when you work with an LLM, but the LLM is being served by us, and that's where we would fit. And that's a big market because that's every single AI company.
I have an additional some topic. Just for example, a very simple usage is we have some over 4 years working with the Filecoin, where the decentralized huge storage, so 20 something exabyte in all of the world, and they just spend a huge effort for the control and management that data set much clearly by the governance system and the allocator and the notary systems. But unfortunately, some China people, they just produce some very garbage data and just store that. And even just copy that data here and there. So it is almost impossible to control and manage it. But their system, of course, total system is a little bit complicated to even explanation. But the simple work about the fingerprint and the watermark is very simple. So Mr. Tahir already explained about it can works like the batch processing. So just use even I wish to communicate with the Filecoin founders, and even they can do that fingerprint for 20 some exabyte data and watermarks. Then maybe they can save some that kind of notaries and many effort and the resources. So even just to bring their solution for the simply works for the stamp first, and if we build a very big control system, radars, then communicate the original data, then it can work better. Just my idea.
Absolutely. So I guess I'm just going to leave it with the technology. At the end of the day, we have like an expert in UI UX. His name happens to be Reese. He does nothing but every moment of every day trying to think how he can make our technology more accessible.
말랑말랑한 주제로 가져왔는데 우리 동창님께서 다시 덮어주고 해서 더 클래리피케이션이 잘 됐다 생각합니다. 시간은 다 되긴 했지만 혹시 어디언스에서 질문 있으면 한번. 네, 좀 마이크를 아니면 그냥 말씀 주셔도 괜찮을 것 같아요.
So, Mr. Mohammed, I'd like to explore a potentially critical perspective on the EU AI Act. Given that the US and China dominate AI development and funding, the EU appears to be positioning itself as a consumer of AI technology while globalizing regulatory standards to maintain influence. So while the AI Act promotes ethical AI development and use, isn't it also a geopolitical strategy to offset the technological disadvantage with the regulatory advantage? And could this act potentially put the brakes on the growing AI development and industry? I was just curious about your
Okay, you know, it's wonderful. Like, I can see you understand what's going on. The politics. Okay, so let's stick to politics. I'm going to ask him answer this first because I think he will give you a different answer, but I'll give you my answer. But I'm not telling you.
Okay, so the way I see it, and maybe it's like the venture capital way of looking at things, I'm like, AI definitely has a fundamental problem with trust. And that trust is something which is effectively inhibiting enterprises from using it. Every day I hear about more and more companies, large companies even, who, mostly large companies, they're the ones who are more strict, who are preventing you from using ChatGPT and everything in your in the enterprise world, right? The organization's employees cannot use it. But then it's exactly what you're saying. It's a race of innovation, and every company doesn't want to be disrupted by ABC, who uses AI with no restriction, while they are restricting everybody because leakage of personal data, randomness in the result. So there's a problem which is non-regulation related, which is also what I call commercial trust, right? So in Web3, companies like Chainalysis, they're tracking wallets of like bad actors using AI, and their biggest customer is governments. Governments like, how can I trust your report? Like, how can I ensure the results are okay? Maybe they were when you trained a model a month ago. Maybe a year later it's not. How can you explain your black box? So they're scrambling for like ISO 42001 compliance. So that's nothing to do with regulation enforced. It's an enterprise standard to ensure that people will do business with you. So you want to continue to innovate and use AI, but then you have this thing. Now, Europe, yes, there could be a strategic angle to do with AI and falling behind, which obviously is the case to some. The facts are that Europe is always not the place where you look for innovation or unicorns in the future. It's old money. It's traditional money, sticking to traditional things. But they do also have this other aspect to how they protect the consumers, and that's reflected in GDPR. And remember, GDPR is not like stifling innovation. So EU AI Act, in my opinion, is a continuation of GDPR rather than a stifling of innovation. It was done as a protection. But you're not wrong in the fact that there could be some indirect or unexpected or expected benefits for Europe in slowing down the race. So I agree with you, that could be an outcome which serves them well, even if they're using the guise of GDPR.
Okay, good. It's funny, the reason I wanted you to hear Asim's answer is because that's what we make a great team, because he's not like a technical person like me, and certainly not as old as me. So, I look at things in a more philosophical way as well, and not hard black and white. So I think with the age, nothing is black and white. Right? You'll know that, right? When you're kids, you think of it like ones and zeros, but when you get older, you're thinking quantum computing, so we're actually more superior. So think of it this way, right? There is no shortfall or shortcoming of money, right? There's no restrictions to Europe buying NVIDIA cards, right? They are not short of money. In fact, I think one of the countries, Asim will remember, has a sovereign AI now, Switzerland, right? And the idea is, I think we mentioned earlier that if you've got AI models in the USA or China or whatever, you can take these open source models, and so you can also leapfrog. There's nothing stopping you, right? If you look at CERN, it's well ahead of everybody in its development of technology, more than the USA. So I wouldn't say that the economics, the money is the factor, right? One thing that, I've lived and spent a lot of time in European countries, Germany, France, Italy, all of these countries, especially Netherlands and Scandinavian countries. They value a balance more, whereas the US doesn't care. Forgive me, I know it sounds very political. They'll bomb you whether they like you or not, right? Whereas Europe has always been a little bit more like, let's just calm down. Let's talk about it. So, as I say, so I don't think there is a problem with money. I don't think it's a problem with technology. If you look at America, the main inventors of many of the technologies came from Europe and went to the USA. And it was the funding that they got in the USA that gave them, but also the openness to go ahead and do something, right? More recently, Sam Altman has flown and bought into Johnny Ives, the guy who did Apple, built the Apple phone and everything else. So from that perspective, I think the EU Act could be seen as a way of protectionism to, like Asim said, maybe slow down. But I actually think it's probably saying we don't want to be overrun by AI, and we don't want to see, it doesn't matter for the price of saving us, humanity, our private data, our dignity, our agency, let's have some level of control. So I'm of the different view. I don't think they're slowing it down. I don't think it's about the AI race. Somebody's always going to win. It doesn't have to be Europe. You know, today, I mean, it's one of those crazy parts where, you know, we're here in South Korea. In the West, where we live, in the UK most of my life, Korea is one of the most technologically advanced places in the world for two reasons. We see cars, TVs, mobile phones, and we see beauty products. You know, you have the best skin in the world. That's far as we're concerned, right? So why are we not in Europe or UK becoming the best? Yeah, there's nothing stopping us, or the USA, but still the markets dominate. Now, whether it's resources, but ultimately, I think a lot of it is down to that intellectual property. Those people, you know, one thing I love about turning up to universities is that, you know, Asim and I know in the USA, we travel and spend a lot of time at Stanford University, MIT. One of our employees, head of BD, he came from Cambridge and he did astrophysics and got a first class in astrophysics, and he knows Web3 and DeFi inside out. These people that we meet every day that are at the top of their game is the difference, right? So all I would say to you is you know, this university, from what Alan has told me, is very prestigious. It has some of the best minds. So I feel privilege and pleasure in being here in front of all of you.
So we are running out of our time. If you don't have any question, then we should take here. So let's give him a big round of applause. Thank you for coming.